It's good to see you today. Hope you're doing well. We're going to be looking at the qualifications for elders today. Our hymn is called Each Step of the Way.
I walk with the Savior, lead down the way. I trust in God, my life and my day. Not many tomorrow, not what it may bring. I faith in the King, on Jesus the
Okay, let's look at our passage now in 1 Timothy 3, verse 1. It says, "This is a faithful saying, if a man desires the position of a bishop, he desires good work. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, temperate, sober-minded, of good behavior, hospitable, able to teach, not given to wine, not violent, not greedy for money, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not covetous, one who rules his own house well, having his children in submission with all reverence. For if a man does not know how to rule his own house, how will he take care of the church of God? Not a novice, lest being puffed up with pride he fall into the same condemnation as the devil. Moreover, he must have a good testimony among those who are outside, lest he fall into reproach and the snare of the devil." Some of the things I thought we might notice today. One, it begins, if a man desires the position of a bishop, he desires a good work. And that's where it starts. It starts with a desire to work, because it is a work. And I understand it calls it a position, but it is a position of good work. It's not just a title. It's a title that points to service. And so it begins with desiring a good work. You know, you hear about a lot of congregations that don't have elders, and you might inquire as to why they don't have elders, and it's, all sorts of different reasons. Perhaps, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, but if they don't have men qualified, if you don't have men qualified, you don't have men qualified. One reason that I chose this hymn, Each Step of the Way, is that, this is what maturity looks like. And that we follow the Lord each step of the way. And, to look at our qualifications, this is how we should be living our lives, frankly, as we think about each one of these ideas. And so I think the issue with a lot of places and with a lot of folks is that people just don't desire the work. It's a work, and oftentimes it's a work that goes unappreciated. A lot of times it's a work that goes overlooked. There's a lot of different things we could say about that. But God's plan and God's wisdom is that this is how the church is to be organized. The passage right after this speaks about deacons. Elders have their work, deacons have their work. So, back to our passage. As I said, there's a lot that could be said. But one thing about the qualifications, and everybody really gets up in arms about the qualifications, and they try to twist them pretty often. You might notice there at the beginning of verse 2, a bishop then must be. And that must be applies to all of them. You might just consider it doesn't say a bishop then may be. It's he must be. These are qualifications. And people try to hedge them, try to fudge them, try to find ways around them, all sorts of things. Says what it says, though. A bishop must be. And what we see throughout the qualifications, very simply, you have certain aspects that have to do with self-control, issues along those lines. You know, each one of those in verse 3 really has to do with self-control. But then you also have issues pertaining to family. That's verse 4, as well as verse 2. And then you also have issues dealing with others outside of his family. Verse 7. And so it's sort of the testing ground. How does you look at you see if a fella controls himself, you see his family and how he operates with his family, and then you think about others as well outside of the family. And so it's just, you know, what effect does the man have? What effect does he have, and will he be effective as a shepherd? And so we follow the Lord each step of the way. And we don't try to jump steps, and we don't try to get around steps. We don't try to twist steps. We just follow the Lord. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our daily praise.